Good morning to all our viewers. Welcome to Life, Your Opinion Matters. We bring you stories of inspiration to inspire and empower. And I'm Lynn Daniels, your host. With the current ongoing pandemic, everyone has a story to tell. And today we're going to share and speak about how the pandemic has affected people in the aviation industry. Today with me in the studio, we have two guests. Captain Abidin Latif with 42 years experience with airborne airlines, and Miss Renee Ross, who has been a leading cabin crew with 31 years experience. In the aviation industry, crew members are expected to be above the rest, for lives depend on them. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, their careers have stalled. Now let's hear their stories.
Well, I have a very humble beginning. Where I come from, I never expected to be flying planes. My father was a carpenter, my mother was an illiterate, and to tell you the truth, when I was in school, I was very, very lazy. But I managed to finish up to Form 6. And I only learned the gist of what is being taught in school after finishing school. And when schooling was done, I came across this newspaper advertisement looking for an airline pilot. I put in my application, got the job, left the country, went to the Philippines, got my license, came back, and started flying for airborne air. I started flying for airborne air with the Fokker Friendship. You must be familiar with that. It's a very robust aircraft. Flying for 42 years. Then I had an incident in Taipei. I lost my job. Later on, I became a flight instructor for 8.5 years. And later still, pandemic hit us.
And how about you, Miss Renee?
Well, being a cabin crew has always been my dream, so I went ahead and became one. Though it was a challenge to get my parents' consent, I think it's the best job ever. Given a chance, I would do it all over again. 31 years of experience in the aviation industry will be something I would cherish for life. That was really amazing. I would never forget those days. The exposure has made me a people's person. However, COVID-19 has turned my world around to a different direction.
And what was your first reaction when you were told that you were ill?
I could not believe this was happening to me. I was in a state of shock. My whole world went dark.
So how long did it take for you to bounce back, to get up again and be on your feet?
It took me a couple of weeks to bounce back. I told myself I could choose to be sad and do nothing, or be positive, move on, support and inspire the crew members who are in need. As a lead crew, I was trained to think ahead. Sky's the limit. With this in mind, I took on a job quickly and started to motivate and inspire the crew members in need.
Now, you say you supported other crew members. Can you elaborate a little bit on how you did that?
I actually actively started calling them, and then I used to send them motivational messages, and also at times just lending a listening ear. Been there, done that, so I could really empathize with them.
And how about you, Captain?
Well, basically, I did similar things in different ways. Encouraging people, talking to them. Basically, they need a listening ear. Listen to their grouses, their complaints, because we are all in the same boat. And we just talk to each other. We have been trained by the airlines to look out for one another. That's the training that we get from the airlines.
And maybe you can tell us, what was it for you? What did you gain by doing it?
Okay, there is a saying, what goes around comes around. And if you do good onto others, others will come around and do good to you. Or to your children, to your grandchildren, your kids, your friends. So it is like an investment. You put in a little investment, hopefully you can collect later on, whatever that comes to your way.
What about you, Ms. Renee?
The satisfaction of seeing the smiles on their faces, that made my day. Being there for them was the least I could do. I do hope that each and every one of us could do our part to help those in need.
We have come to the Q&A section of this program, and we have some questions from our viewers at home. The first question comes from Hafiz from Pasir Mas, and the question is, what is the future of aviation and will it ever recover? I believe this question is for you, Captain. Can you please give us your personal opinion on this?
The aviation will recover from what I have observed, but the bigger question is how fast can we come back to the 17th of March 2020? And it is going to take some time. As far as we are concerned, presently, no analyst can put their finger to it. And your guess is as good as mine.
We have one more question coming up, and this next one is from Irene Liu from Puchong Perdana. And her question is, what message do you have for all crew members of the industry? And I believe this message is for all crew members wherever you are in the world affected by the pandemic.
Just be reminded on how we've been trained in the airlines to handle emergencies. So translate this to real life minus the manual. It is life skills at the end of the day. We all have it in us. Just believe in yourself.
So think on your feet. You've done this before. You can get up and go, and you can do this again. We have one final question today, and this question comes from Miss Amrita from Bandar and Stack. And Miss Amrita explains that she is a partner to a pilot who has just been retrenched. And so her question reads, after trying to be a pilot for 7 years, he has finally became one, but almost immediately he got retrenched and he has now gone into depression. How can I help him? So, Captain, can you answer?
I'm about to tell you my story. I was involved in the flight ST-004, the flight that crashed upon takeoff in Taipei. I was the first officer operating the flight. Bear in mind, this is not a near-fatal accident. A lot of lives were lost. The fuselage is broken into 2 sections, and fireballs shoot through the cabin, and people were burned alive. I wasn't sure at that moment whether it was a boon or a curse that made me survive that flight. I won't go into too much details, as you can always Google it. I am here to talk about what happened to me after the accident. I am guilty for what happened, but I am grateful for the life that has been given to me. The counselors didn't know what to do with me. I talked about the crash, void of emotions, when inside I was all messed up, just having thoughts about it. Now imagine having to rewind the tales over and over again. For 2 years, I put my head on my praying mat every single day and asked him to give me strength. I was incapable to function normally, and eventually my license was revoked from flying. My wife then asked me, how long are you going to do this? Just talk to God without any real effort to do anything about it? We have 2 growing up kids. We need to keep on moving. My wife has always been my biggest supporter. I remember when they had to hide me away, switching from one hotel to another in Taiwan, because we were not cleared to go back to base. The prying eyes of the media, and someone knocked on my door saying, I think you want to see this gas. And in she walked. I broke down, sobbing like a kid in her arms. After that crash, I didn't go back to flying for almost 10 years. And in that 10 years, I did any ground job that I can get my hands on to support my family. Eventually, I managed to get better at it. I was invited to become a subject for a team of psychologists to learn about the depths of being an aviation crash survivor, the thought process, the logic behind their thinking, the verbal and physical act of trying to cope post-crash, and so on. And one day, out of the blues, I was given an opportunity to fly again. It happened when I least expected it. It took me 10 years to cope with the trauma, and I was a better pilot after that. I came back to flying and called the skies as my second home away from home. Again, this is what I do for a living, and I would not trade this for anything less. And to your boyfriend, it will be a shame to lose a crew like you, since you are dedicated to your job. And I know you are passionate about flying, or else you would not be a pilot after years of trying. And I know you understand that the sky is never the limit. You want this job. You love being a pilot. And you always love being a pilot again. Trust me, things will only get better for you if you only let it be. You only live once, make it count.
If I may add, life must go on. There's a reason for everything that happens in our lives. If there's anything I've learned from the sum of our experience is never fear the skies. Grab hold of that fear and defeat it.
Amazing. Thank you to the both of you for being this two exemplary individuals who have really shown endurance and just having that ability to stay above water. I think what we can learn from here today is that we need to adapt, we need to move on, be in the flow, and there is always this knowing that things will become better and that there is always light at the end of the tunnel. Keep your focus on that bright light. And with that, we've come to the end of our show. This is Lynn Daniels signing off and telling you that